Hello guys, welcome back to Simple Wistful Living. Today I'm sharing my recipe for Gulab Jamun, which is Fiji style. In Fiji they make the Gulab Jamuns long rather than round, and it's not it does have sugar syrup, but it's like a harder syrup that's coated on the outside, and it doesn't sit in the syrup as opposed to the one in India. It is very delicious, very easy to make if you get the syrup right. It's a little time consuming, but so worth it during Diwali. Today I'll be providing some vegan options, which is what I'm using since I'm dairy free right now. If you want to know more about that, you can head over to my Facebook page. To make the gulab jamuns, you're going to need flour. I'm using all-purpose flour, which is just the basic flour. You're also going to need some condensed milk. So the vegan option would be to use coconut or vegan condensed milk. It's readily available on Amazon, or you can use a dairy one. I'm also using some butter. Again, it's vegan, but you can use butter or ghee. You're going to need some baking powder. And for the spices, you're going to need elaichi and jaifal, which is cardamom and nutmeg. For the sugar syrup, you're going to need sugar and water. So to start, we're going to add the baking powder and the spices to the flour, and you're going to mix this up really well. You can use a whisk if you want, but I'd like to just use my hands. You always want to use freshly grated nutmeg for any recipe. The nutmeg that you get at the store that's pre-grated or ground nutmeg, it does not have any flavor, so always freshly grate your nutmeg. Again, you're gonna whisk this or mix this in really well. You want the baking powder to be well combined. Then we're gonna take the butter. I have cold vegan butter here. I use I believe it's Earth Balance, but any vegan butter or ghee or regular butter will do. If you don't have vegan butter and you want to make this vegan, you can use coconut oil as well. You just want to mix this in to the flour really well using the motion that I always use. You rub it between your palms and get it evenly distributed. By the time you're done, it's gonna look like very fine breadcrumbs or coarse sand. You will be able to bring this together when you squeeze it between your palms. Then we're going to go in with our condensed milk. So I never go in with all of the condensed milk. The recipe calls for 110, and I have the ounces on the recipe on my website, but I always start off with a little bit and I kind of work it into the dough and then continue. If you don't want this to be super sweet, you can use 3/4 of a can, which is what I typically do, and it works out really well. You will need to add some water if you don't use all of the condensed milk. Again, you'll see that's what I did here, because what ends up happening is when you have a lot of condensed milk and then you have the sugar syrup, it gets a little too sweet for my palate. I don't like my sweets to be super sweet. I like them to be just sweet enough. So I then start going in with my hands. Condensed milk is sticky, so I start off with a spatula and then go in with my hand. And then you'll see here that I'm adding water. And once you add water, it may seem like the dough is a little loose, but just keep kneading the dough and it will come together. Don't add a lot of water. You want to add maybe a couple of tablespoons at a time, and then knead, and then if you need more, then add more. But you want a soft dough, but not too sticky. It should be a tacky dough. Then you're going to cover this and let this rest for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, you're just going to take tablespoon sized balls, or as small or as big as you want. You're going to roll them in between your palms and you're going to make this cylinder-like shape. You can make them any shape you want realistically, but this is how it's traditionally made in Fiji. I like to use a chopping board or a marble top to help roll them out. It's just a little bit easier, and one thing you want to keep in mind is they have to be smooth, no cracks. The cracks will cause them to burst open when you're frying them. Then you're gonna go and get your oil heated up. I have my heat on medium, and you want to test it out to make sure that it's warm and it's hot enough to fry, and then it starts bubbling up when you put in a little piece. Then you go in with your gulab jamuns. If you feel like your heat is too high, put it at the lowest setting possible. You want to be careful when putting these in the hot oil because they can splash. Now while frying these, you want to keep them heat either medium or medium low. Do not have the heat too high. You will just end up browning the outside and the inside will stay gooey. In my cast iron pan and on medium to medium low heat, it took me about 5 to 7 minutes to fry these. Again, low and slow is the way to go. You do not want to rush this process. And while you're frying this, you want to keep moving them around so they don't just brown on one side. Keep moving them around gently and get them to golden brown. As they start becoming golden brown, start taking them out. They might not all turn golden brown at the same time. Next, we're going to make the sugar syrup. You're going to take the sugar and water, put it on high heat, and stir it until it melts. And for me, in my pot on my gas stove, I had the heat on high. It took me 8 minutes to get to 230 degrees. You want to watch this. You don't want to walk away from it. And you will see the bubbles start slowing down. And I have this on the footage here, I have it sped up because it took 8 minutes. But at the 6 minute mark, start looking at it. It's gonna be one thread consistency, but it's gonna be just when it starts becoming one thread consistency. So 230 degrees on a candy thermometer. Once you notice that the bubbles that are like that boiling bubbles start getting sluggish and slowing down, that's when you know that the pag or the sugar syrup is ready. You want to turn off your heat, and then you're gonna take your gulab jamuns, put it in a bowl or a pot, something that's big enough, and then you're gonna pour not all of the syrup but most of the syrup in there. The reason my rule is always don't add all of it at once. You can always add more. Then you're going to start gently stirring this. Now this is a process that is a little bit more time consuming. You want to continuously stir this gently because we don't have this sitting in syrup. So you want to move that syrup around and start coating the gulab jamun's exterior, and as you do this, it's going to start soaking it up. It's not going to harden really hard at this point, but when you're satisfied, you'll start seeing a little bit of crystallization. When you're satisfied, you want to go ahead and transfer them on a parchment lined or greased tray. Let the gulab jamuns dry completely on this tray before you transfer them into your container or wherever else, however you're gonna serve them or store them. They will store in you at room temperature for a couple of weeks, or in the refrigerator they'll last a few weeks at least. Of course, they're not going to last that long if you make them for Diwali. These gulab jamuns are moist on the inside and they're nicely coated, not hard. They're soft and they're so delicious. Even with the vegan options that I use, they're so delicious. You cannot taste the coconut from the coconut condensed milk, which was absolutely great because this was my first year making them vegan because I am dairy free right now, and they were so delicious. Of course, you can use regular condensed milk and they're just as great. They're so delicious. The recipe stays the same. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and if you're new here, subscribe to my channel. And if you try any of these recipes, please share them on my social media, on Facebook and on Instagram. You just search for Simply Blissful Living and my accounts will pop up. Please share your pictures and I look forward to seeing those. Until next time, you guys, please take care and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye bye and happy cooking.